My name is Chaplain Deborah Fontes. I'm from Sacramento, California, and thank you for listening to Hey Chaplain.
Welcome to Hey Chaplain. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. This is a special bonus episode of Hey Chaplain recorded on site in New Orleans, Louisiana, at the International Association of Chiefs of Police Officer Safety and Wellness Conference. In March of 2026, Chaplain Phil Reeves from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department was my partner in giving a presentation at this conference on how to embed police chaplains. We recorded that talk and the Q&A that followed it, and I want to give you just a few select cuts of what we did. I also had the opportunity to hang out with some chaplains from California, Massachusetts, Colorado, and some other states. So I'm going to throw in just a few clips of those police chaplains saying hi to the Hey Chaplain audience. So here are some excerpts, less than half of the presentation that we gave at IACP in 2026.
Welcome, everybody. When I became a chaplain 10 years ago, I went into the police station and did what I was taught to do. I went to roll calls and I stood awkwardly in the back of the room while all the cops looked at me like, what is this guy doing? After I was there for a little while, they slowly began to accept me, but I repeatedly heard the same thing. I didn't even know we had chaplains. I come from a place, we have a 45-plus year chaplain association. We've had chaplains as long as I've been alive, but they didn't know they had chaplains. As time went by, I heard that again and again, it evolved into, well, we never saw a chaplain before you came along, which is not entirely true, but that's what they perceived. And so that worries me that this happens at a lot of agencies where you have chaplains, maybe on paper, you have chaplains that are ceremonial chaplains, but you don't have chaplains in the lives of your patrol officers, those guys who are just starting their career. They don't know what a chaplain is, and they can't pick one out of a lineup. That concerns me. If one officer says, I didn't know we had chaplains, he might be a knucklehead, okay? He might not know, all right? He may not be paying attention. If 5 of them say, I didn't know that we had chaplains at this department, that's a statistically relevant data point. If you have that number increase and increase and increase, you have a problem. What we're wanting to do today is we're wanting to cast a vision for what an embedded chaplain looks like. We want to explain why it's important, how you can encourage it, what it should look like. That is our desire. We had a great chaplains workshop yesterday. They covered so many things. It was fantastic. I hope that in future years at IACP, we have more chaplain sessions. But for this session, we're trying to raise your expectations that it's not okay that your chaplains are just for ceremonial purposes only, that they're, break glass in case of emergency type chaplains. We don't want that. We have plenty of chaplains, older chaplains maybe, who are kind of mostly retired, who are just there for the ceremonies, but we want embedded chaplains. That's what we're looking for. So let me introduce myself and my partner here.
Partner in crime.
Yeah. So my name is Jared Altick. I am a chaplain with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. I am not a sworn officer. I come completely from the outside. I am a church pastor. I've been a church pastor for 30 years. I've been at my current church, Kansas City, for 25 years. But I've always had cops, first responders, and military in my church. And so I spent decades making mistakes, not understanding how those career paths were different than your plumber and your accountant. I didn't understand, but I did learn. I may have learned slowly, but I did learn. And so I became someone who fell in love with police officers, even when they weren't very lovable. And so that's what I do now is I still work at the church. I volunteer at the police department. I am a patrol chaplain, so I am focused primarily on our patrol divisions. And those are my guys, okay? I recognize them out of uniform at Walmart. I know their voice on the radio. Those patrol officers are my guys. I'm their patrol chaplain. Phil?
Thank you, Jared. My name is Phil Reeves. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. I am a patrol chaplain with LASD. I am retired in 2013, worked patrol the whole time as a supervisor. Small agency in the East San Gabriel Valley. Took a couple of years off to sort some things out and became a chaplain with LASD in a patrol chaplain. We don't work with incarcerated folks. In 2018, tail end of 2017, LASD is ginormous, 9,000 sworn. I think it's the biggest sheriff's department in the country, if not the world. We have 24 patrol stations, each is about 200 in each. So I'm assigned to the Kim Kardashian station. Yeah.
Thank you, Phil. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go first. And before I do that, we're recording this for the Hey Chaplain podcast. I don't know that we'll use it. I am interested in your questions. And so we're going to have a Q&A period at the end. And if you have questions about chaplains, about how do you get your chaplains more involved, or hey, I think we've made a mistake in how we're structured or something like that. If you have any questions, I want you to save that for the end, and we're going to do that, and we're going to record those questions. This is your warning. IACP said it's okay if you record, but we want you to warn everybody that you're recording. So we're mic'd up, and we'll be able to record your questions if you want to do that. We'll do that at the end.
So this is Future Chaplain, and I am editing the recording, and I'm going to cut out about 35 minutes here. We started with, I did about 12 or 13 minutes of war stories to show what an embedded chaplain might look like. And I just told several stories that happened within about a 3-day span. I've told most of them on this show before, but they're the kind of thing where there were critical incidents and I was already connected to the people involved. Then Phil went through his slide deck and did a great job of showing kind of the 30,000-foot view of what it would look like if your chaplain was not just embedded, but was an everyday professional part of your department. A lot of this is very aspirational. There are a few places where chaplains operate at this level, where they're a paid part of the department, or even as volunteers, they have a very professional set of expectations. But a lot of places, that's not the case. And what we wanted to do was push for those higher expectations. Here are our closing remarks.
When we're talking about embedding a chaplain and having that raised expectation of our chaplains are going to be embedded, it's not that you'll never have someone who only is available for ceremonial purposes or maybe only available for community purposes. Those are different types of chaplains. Those are great. We need those too. But for the sake of officer wellness, we need embedded chaplains, that we have this expectation, this high standard, that even if they're an unpaid volunteer, we don't need you to show up once a year. We need you to be here all the time. We need you to be building relationships. We need you to be involved. I was trained and influenced, especially early on, by military chaplains. And those military chaplains it was just unacceptable to operate any other way. In their opinion, if you're a chaplain, then you parachute out of the plane with the paratroopers and you live on the ship with the sailors. That's just how it works. Why would they turn to you in crisis if they don't know you? Why create one more barrier because now they have to approach a stranger that might be twice their age? Why create an extra barrier when it's so easy to come in and to be involved, to ride in the car for a few hours, to be at the station, to learn who their supervisors are and why their sergeant hates them and all of the stuff they go through? Why not learn that? And you can find and recruit people who are curious about that. I'm a complete outsider. I'm not like Phil. Phil served, but I learned to love police officers even when they were unlovable. And a police officer will push you away to see if you can be pushed away. You have to defeat that test. You have to overcome that. They'll push you away. I've walked into patrol rooms where as soon as I walk in, normal conversation, ratchet it up, and they start dropping all the F-bombs, and they just paint the walls with profanity because the chaplain's here. to see if I'll clutch my pearls and run away, or get upset or try to correct them or something. They're testing me. I just refuse to fail that test. I care about them, the knuckleheads. I care about them. I want them to do well. And their being off-putting is not going to divert me from my task. And so when we're talking about embedding chaplains, the key is to build rapport through repetition and consistency. It is not too much to tell your chaplains, we expect you to be at the station X number of times a month. Now, that's going to depend on the size of your department. It's going to depend on, like, we have 3 patrol stations in KCK. And so that's 9 different shifts, and there's only so much a volunteer can do. But it's not wrong to set a minimum and say, we expect this. If we're going to give you access to our department buildings and personnel, then you are going to have some minimum. And we can be gracious if you've got a medical thing, you're going to be out of commission for a few months, that's fine. But when you're back, we expect you to be back and not just on the shelf waiting for the next prayer breakfast with the mayor. That's not good enough. The chaplains who bypass being embedded and go straight to the breakfast with the mayor, only are there at banquets and ceremonies, those chaplains give the rest of us chaplains a bad name. We need chaplains who are embedded and connected, where if you ask someone, does your department have a chaplain? Everybody from the most grizzled sergeant down to the newest recruit say, oh yeah, he's great. He's here all the time. I see him more than I see my major. That's what you want out of an embedded chaplain, and we should have that expectation. We should have that standard and not tolerate anything less.
Yeah.
If they don't want to be there, then you can take back the jacket you gave them that says chaplain across the back. You can take that back and give it to somebody who wants to be there.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're a little fiery about it. Our third guy who couldn't be here, he talked the rest of the afternoon. He gets so fired up about it. He has no tolerance for these chaplains that are just ceremony, break glass in case of emergency chaplains. He has no tolerance for it. He's a former SWAT guy. But regardless of where you come from, we should all have that high standard. And we're pretty concerned about that.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I'm working with Des Moines, Washington. Believe it or not, Washington State has their own city of Des Moines. It's a suburb of Seattle. To build their chief is all about wellness, and he's all about chaplaincy. But his city council is very leery about the church-state entanglement issue. So we're kind of building a 501c3 standing along the Des Moines Police Department to provide, recruit, vet, train, deploy chaplains, and we're just in the initial phases of sussing out some of the local charitable donors. It's a warm fuzzy for them. So there's options out there. There's private options, and also there's public options. More and more, cities and counties are line iteming in, chaplains.
All right. So we want to encourage you to ask questions. We have a microphone right out here. If you give me the nod, I'm going to bring my recording microphone to you also. I'd love to hear some of your successes. I'd love to hear if you've got complaints. This is a safe place. And you can vent. It's like, oh, we had this chaplain, we couldn't get him to do anything. Frankly, I kind of want to hear those stories too. Like I said, none of this may end up on the show. The Hey Chaplain podcast is a podcast for police officers. Chaplains just listen in on it and can learn police culture, that kind of thing. But it's a podcast for cops. And so if I listen back to this and think, oh, there's something there that a cop would appreciate, it may find its way into a future episode. If not, we still had a fun exercise doing this, having this conversation. Okay? You come up to the microphone here. You can hear you.
So I was curious about any practical suggestions you might have to help reward chaplains, especially volunteer chaplains. We are fortunate to have that where I work. But, because they are volunteering so much of their time, and especially if you have those high standards, how do you keep them engaged and motivated, because it is asking a lot?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's difficult as soon as you start spending money on a chaplain, especially for an agency that's never done it before, for a city council or county commissioners who've never done it before. They see that and they might have a bad reaction to it. And so you got to get creative, whether you're helping them buy uniforms or whether you're providing equipment like a car or something like that. I mean, that adds up pretty fast. I think there are other ways to help a chaplain feel better about it, but that's dangerous too. Because Mark Twain said that human beings are the only animal whose head expands when you pat them on the back. And so you want humble people who are willing to serve because it's the right thing to do. If you put their name up in lights and give them lots of public attaboys, that's probably necessary sometimes, but you probably don't want to do it too much because you want people who are willing to work behind the scenes. So, Phil, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I would say, same way I felt when I was a supervisor back in my patrol days. We had volunteers who came into the station to do stuff. Some of them were good and some of them were not good, but I loved them all. We loved them all up. So one thing that chaplains, I think, thrive off of is just recognition and being loved up. If you've got a good chaplain, volunteer chaplain, who's, a wise person, be creative about ways that you can embed them into what you're going on. You got a watch commander who goes, hey, I know this guy's been having trouble. He's been out on 5 gnarly calls in the last 2 weeks. Whatever, you name it. Why don't you, chaplain, would you ride with this guy? Would you mind? Once a year, we reach out to all of the faith communities in our jurisdiction, and we invite them into the station. The captain speaks to them about something, and then one of our specialty, assignments like resource officers or whatever will talk to people about what they do.
Yeah. Our city does an appreciation breakfast for all the volunteers in the county, and in the county and city we're unified government, so it's the same thing. But they include the chaplains in that, so that's kind of nice that we get included and get recognized at that breakfast with other volunteers. That's kind of nice. But I'm thinking of your question really. Yeah. What I appreciate, what fuels me as a chaplain, is that my officers utilize me. That they refer each other to me when they're going through a divorce or something rough is going on. That's what fuels me, because it took me years to get there. For years, I kept showing up and they were like, thanks, but no thanks. And now I'm 10 years in and I'm connected, and they trust me that I'm not using them as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. And so, my big, hairy, audacious goal is that I will have a officer who I taught the academy, and he has a 25-plus year career and retires, and I was his chaplain the whole time. That's my big, if God lets me, that's what I want to do in life. Yeah. Okay? And so they trust me that I'm reliable, that I keep confidentiality, that I'm trustworthy, that I understand where they're at. And when they utilize me, that's my reward. I don't know.
Well, I wanted to real quick visit a point. If I were supervisor still, I would go to someone like Jared and say, hey, Jared, would you put together an outreach to faith communities and it's paid off immense dividends for goodwill in the community. That recognizes him and what he has to contribute. And also the other thing that happens is going forward, the faith community can key off of Chaplain Jared. Hey, I got a question. We got a homeless issue here.
Yeah.
I can talk to the chaplain, and he can relay it to whoever is appropriate in the chain of command.
A chaplain could be a very good liaison, and sometimes those roles are nice places to help them feel useful. That
Exactly.
kind of thing.
Feel useful.
Other questions or comments or horror stories?
I got plenty of both. What's the secret to getting chaplains to break through that ice that you talked about in the beginning? Because that's my biggest problem. They go up to the troop a couple of times and they get the, what do you want? A stiff arm. Yep. And they don't go back. Because at their church, they get, oh, Pastor, we love you. Pastor, you're wonderful. And they go to an officer and they get,
Yeah.
And
it ain't church. That's for
right.
sure. Yeah.
So, they quit going. And so I had to find somebody else to replace them.
I love that you guys are asking questions I don't have good answers to. I know that for me, I am personally convicted. You know the story of Jonah in the Bible? I am convinced that if I did not continue to do what I'm doing, working in the church, serving as a chaplain in my hometown, if I did not do that, I'd get swallowed by a fish and vomited back at the door of the police station. I can't run away from it. There's no use trying. I need to embrace this. And so I have that personal conviction. Somebody that wants to recruit people to their church or wants to feel important and loved like they are on Sunday morning, so they come in the police station and get that stiff arm. If they can't, it's a test. Like I said earlier, if they can't pass that test, they're the wrong person. No matter how qualified they are on paper, they're just the wrong person for that job. You've got to love cops when they're not very lovable.
But I warn them about it. That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then reality hits.
Right. I hear you, brother. We're just going to start a support group. When you find someone who can pass that test, do everything, spend your entire budget to get them the training they don't have or whatever else they're lacking. Because passing that test is like, that you can't, it's like a basketball player. You can't teach tall. Okay, they're tall or they're not, right? You can teach everything else, but you can coach them up on every other part of the game, but you can't coach them to be taller. Same thing with a chaplain. If a chaplain will love first responders, then they'll love them. But you can't, I don't know if you can teach it.
No, I don't, I think what I tell people, a lot of our chaplains are well-meaning pastors and church people, and that's awesome. But, give them a couple months. I've gotten calls that, hey, I feel like a freaking potted plant over in the station.
Which is normal.
I go in there and I say, look, I know it's hard, but you got to go to the station once a week and go for a ride-along once a week. And then maybe after a year, people will start,
year and a half,
start talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it's just the way, there was, someone was called law enforcement chaplaincy intentional loitering. Intentional loitering. I like that phrase, because that's what you do. You just go there and you just hang out and you be with them. Another thing is, if you've got like a wingman chaplain, you could put somebody starting new, and you've got a more senior chaplain that can be there and just kind of be with the new person and make introductions. So it's not all on the chaplain to stand there in the corner, and sit there and the briefing say, hey, who wants to take the chaplain today? Nobody.
Yeah.
And you just,
man, and I bypass that because I know that's hard.
Yeah.
And so I don't ever send a new chaplain in to then ask, will someone take me along? Oh, no. I called the sergeant or even the captain. We don't have lieutenants. I call the sergeant or the captain the day before and say, I need you to assign this chaplain to ride along with somebody. We can't make it a volunteer thing. It's hard enough. All right. And so I can grease the skids a little bit by working behind the scenes. But yeah.
And your watch commanders will know who could probably benefit from some love.
Here's another little pro tip.
accompaniment.
Ride-alongs. I deliberately make my ride-alongs random. I tell my sergeants, randomly put me in a one-man car. Just pick one. Okay, pick one. Whoever your first choice is, pick a different one. Okay, pick one at random, because that then gives me cover for when someone asks for me to ride along and they need me to spend a couple hours with them. Because if I'm always coming in and doing random ride-alongs, it never stands out, and then they can kind of fly under the radar with their coworkers, and nobody knows that they asked the chaplain to come spend time with them. And sometimes they need that. Sometimes my officers need that. So, all right. Do you have any other questions that we can't really answer, but we'd love to sympathize with you?
We had a question right here about starting a new podcast, and this is what my response was.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't have to sell me on podcasting.
Yeah.
All right. I've been a podcaster for several years, and I think the spoken word is a powerful medium. We are too addicted to video. Video, your brain turns off and you can't do anything else, and you go into zombie state. I hate video. But audio, I can listen and learn while I'm mowing the yard or washing the dishes or driving down the highway, and I love that. And there is so much room. Everybody's doing a 30-second reel on TikTok or whatever. Be different. Start an audio podcast. It is not hard to start. It's hard to keep going. I've been doing my podcast for 5 years. I had a 1-year run up, so I'm like 6 years into it. It is hard to keep going with a podcast. It is hard to keep producing content. Your ideas run out after about 6 or 7 episodes. And then you're like, oh no, now what do I do? And so it is difficult to do, but if you have a knack for it, or if you can overcome that learning curve, that idea would be a great idea. Yeah. I've already got all the unpaying jobs that my wife will tolerate, and so I cannot add another one. Yeah. But I recommend pursuing it and see where that leads. Sometimes that leads to something else, a different type of way to help. But it's a good thing.
If you're not familiar with Hey Chaplain, his podcast, it's really awesome, and it's not just limited to chaplains. It's a great wellness tool for all kinds of command staff, patrol people, chaplains.
There's no commercials. I do that on purpose too.
All kinds of stuff.
I will not have an officer, like I had an officer from England who was going to take his own life. He was going to throw himself off a cliff and got stopped at the last second. A little old lady asked if he's okay. I am not going to interrupt that story with a mattress commercial. Okay? Now, I'm not against other shows monetizing, but Hey Chaplain will never be monetized. It will always be a free resource because I need my cops. It's 25 years old. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. They're going to put in an earbud and listen to something because everything's dying down. I want to give them an alternative where they don't want to listen to me, but they'll listen to me interview a cop from Scotland Yard or from LAPD or wherever, and they'll listen to that cop talk about topics that are relevant to their life. And so that's why awesome. Hey Chaplain exists.
Really good.
There's tons of room for more. You can make a podcast too, and I'd recommend doing it.
Yeah.
I want to thank Phil Reeves for being my partner in this presentation and for being my travel buddy. I also want to throw in some recordings of some other chaplains who were at this conference with me. You heard at the cold opening of this show Deborah Fontes from Sacramento, California. This next clip is Kate Gallup from the Massachusetts State Police.
Hi, Jared. Thanks for having me. It is a pleasure to meet you. I have to say that it is an honor to be part of this panel that is presenting at the IACP Officer Safety and Wellness Conference. My name is Kate Gallup. I'm the Reverend Dr. Chaplain Coordinator for the Massachusetts State Police. It is an honor to serve the Commonwealth. We currently have 20 chaplains that work with Mass State Police that serves 3,400 employees, 2,500 which are troopers. And we serve over 351 communities, which also house 7.2 million people. We absolutely love making a difference in the community, and it is an honor to be here and to meet you. But more importantly, thank you so much because you make my commute every day to Framingham a much better one as I listen to your podcast.
It was actually really difficult to get a clean recording of Kate Gallup because Chaplain Kevin Shive from Colorado kept yelling in the background, "Hey, Kate, say something funny." Kate doesn't need any encouragement to say something funny. All chaplains have a great sense of humor. The final clip that I'm going to share today is from Pat Bach. Pat is a psychologist and a nurse and a chaplain and is very involved with IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police. I was super pleased to find out that she's also a listener to the show. Can you tell me how you found the show?
I found the show because I spoke to Chief Sutterby, and he had told us about you. And then I heard about you, that was a couple months ago, and then I heard about you again. And I started looking up Hey Chaplain podcast, and I love it. It's incredible. You are now my walking partner. You help me get up the steep hills, and it doesn't even bother me. I'm really engaged with it, and I think it's fantastic and an incredible resource for anybody in the world of law enforcement. Thank you for what you do, Jared. It really is. It's a B12 shot in the arm.
The views expressed here are the personal views of the host and our guest and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components. If you like this episode, please share it with a cop or someone who loves a cop. Podcasts grow because one person tells another person, "Hey, I've got this show I really like. I think you're going to like it too." Thank you for listening to Hey Chaplain. And as always, let's pray for peace in our city.